Viscount Leisure, my name's Charles. I'm going to take you on a tutorial video around this SPRITE Major 40B that we've got here, just to make sure that we know what we're doing when we get to site and how we set everything up. First things first, when you get to site, you want to make sure you're working on a level playing field, so make sure you're getting your caravan nice and level. The way we do this is on our jockey wheel front to back, which is underneath our hitch cover just here. So we wind up and down on our jockey wheel. That will raise and lower the front of the caravan. Once we're nice and level, using a SPRITE level inside the van, ideally on a flat surface, we will then go to put down our legs. We've got one of those, or corner steadies as we call them, one of those on each side. And you can see here, we just wind them down through this bolt here, the winder being in your front locker just there. We use those purely as steadies. We don't use them to try and level the caravan, because you'll end up damaging the floor of your caravan and also the legs themselves. So level on the jockey wheel. If you need to raise one side up, you can use a leveling wedge underneath one of the wheels just to raise it up slightly. But we put those down firmly onto the floor. That way when we move around inside, there is nothing to worry about with the caravan wobbling around. You can see we've got a motor mover in front of the wheel there. We'll show you that on collection just so you know how that all works. Quick look at the hitch head here. So we've got an Alco stabilising hitch head. We will do a full hitch up with you when you pick the van up, but just so that a couple of things to know. We're running 13 pin electrics here, so you need to make sure you're compatible that with your car. If you're on 7 pins, you need to make sure you've got the right adapter to get through to the 13 pin as well. Got our company hitch lock on there as well, so you will need a hitch lock with the van for the security if you wish to. If you're having a tow ball fitted, we have an Alco stabilising hitch head on the front here. So again, you need to make sure that is compatible with your tow bar. So if you're having one fitted, if you speak to the fitter and let them know you've got a caravan with an Alco hitch, they will know what you need. If you need any more advice, just let us know. Also, if it's a brand new tow ball, you want to be sanding off the paint so we're down to bare metal. The reason for that is we've got friction pads in this hitch head here, so we want to make sure that it's got something to grip onto. The actual paint on the thing will not do what it needs to do. That being said, the same as with if you've got grease on your current tow ball, you need to make sure that's thoroughly cleaned off as well. We're down to bare metal, because otherwise we don't want to get grease up in that hitch head, otherwise it won't do what it needs to do. So that is how your hitch head works. Again, we'll go through a hitch up with you when you pick your van up anyway, so don't worry too much. Coming around this side, this is our boiler fleet. We've got a boiler on board which produces our hot water and our heating. It'll run on a combination, or it'll run on 240 electric and also run on gas if we're not plugged into electric. So a bit like at home, we need to be able to vent the fumes coming out, so that's what that's for. Don't cover it up, and it does get hot, so just bear that in mind. We're going to want water coming into the van, so you're going to need one of these. You can need an aqua roll. What you do when you get to site, you take it to your service point, you fill it up, roll it back. Then what we're going to do is grab our water inlet here. This will be in your front locker. We drop that into the barrel and then into the side of the van. We do it that way because it's a semi-rigid pipe. Otherwise, if we start trying to move it around too much, we can end up breaking this, the top of it here. So in the barrel first, then in the side of the van. And the opposite when you're taking it out. From a power point of view, we have our 240 volt coming on the side here. So if you've got access to mains power, you can get a mains lead and plug that into the side, and that will give you access to mains power inside your van. Other than that, we also have our 12 volt battery here. That will provide the power to things like your lights, to your water pump, to your fridge panel, and keeping everything working inside. All right, that is also being trickle charged by a solar panel sitting on the roof. So everything is sort of taken care of there. All right, can't guarantee these batteries because they we leave them on only when there's a solar panel on, just to keep the circuit going. We have tested it, it seems okay at the moment, but maybe worth considering a new battery. Again, mains lead, you'll need one of those. That's providing your 240 volt power. Here we've got our fridge vent. So the way the fridge works is it uses heat to cool, so it's pulling the cold air in from the bottom, releasing the hot air out of the top. We've had that on all day, just checking everything's working, and that's pumping out some warm air out the top, so that's all working as it should do. We've then got, on the water point of view, we've got our fresh water going in there. Our wastewater comes out of these two areas here. So you'll need a waste master which will lay on the floor with some pipe. There is some spare pipe in the front locker which is designed to fit in those holes. And that will then take all the wastewater from your sink and from your shower and in your bathroom as well, and go into your waste master. Once that's full, take that off to your service point, fill it up, and jobs are good. Let me go and get the keys and we'll just have a quick look at the toilet cassette. It's a Thetford toilet cassette. It really works the same way as any toilet would do, but obviously goes into a cassette where there are some chemicals, and that's what keeps everything sort of smelling reasonable, and also breaks everything down in there and makes it easier when we are trying to empty it. So let me grab the key for that. Right, so in the top one here goes our flush water. We have a separate flush tank to our fresh water because we add chemicals to it. So in there you're going to mix water and either pink or green chemical. The reason for that, A, smells nicer, keeps everything lubricated and working properly. The amount that you need to put on will be on the bottle, whichever chemical it is you decide to use, and we can advise you on that as well, no problem at all. And then once you flush the toilet, it then has to go somewhere into this cassette. We pull that out quite simply by lifting that handle up, and as you can see, it's on wheels, and we can extend the handle and wheel it to our service point. So there'll be a dedicated point on site for chemical disposal, so that's where you'll need to head to. Once we get there, you're going to open this up, take the cap off the end, and then we've got this orange button here. We press that, releasing the air pressure inside the unit. Makes it nice and easy for when we're trying to empty it. Normally there's a hose pipe there as well. I would suggest putting a bit more water in, giving it a shake around just to get rid of any loose bits, and again then emptying it out. We're then going to prime this again with some chemical, either blue or green, into here. Again, the instructions for that will be on whichever chemical you decide to use. This does double up as a measuring cap as well if you need it to. Okay, once that's reprimed, it's then ready to come back in here and just slot straight back in. When you finish using the caravan, always leave your caravan with your toilet cassette empty, and also drain down your flush tank as well. We've drained the flush tank. Just underneath here there's a little tube that comes down. Take the stopper out the end and that will drain everything down. All these lockers, you can see, have got a black seal around them. I would suggest getting your hands on some silicone spray, and just every now and again just giving them a spray just to make sure you're keeping them soft and supple and doing what they're supposed to do. Just keeps for the long lifeness of it. As you can see, we've got a full bike rack on the back of this van for 3 bikes by the looks of things. Yep, quite simply just pulls down, and we strap our wheels into here, and then these arms come out and grab onto the crossbar of the bike. Just bear in mind, if we're putting some weight on the back of these, all your weights and everything are on this sticker just here. Make sure that we're sort of just counterbalancing that slightly. If we're putting a lot of weight on the back, just want to counterbalance that slightly on the nose as well. All right, so just keep that in mind. Right. Well, that's everything for the outside. What we'll do now we've got everything set up outside is pop in and see what we need to do inside. Right, so first things first, what we're going to do is come in, make sure all of our taps are shut. You should have left them open the last time you left your van sort of not being used, and we'll talk about that later. So come in here, shut the tap in the kitchen, in the shower, in the bathroom. We're then going to come and close our boiler drain valve. Our boiler's sat underneath here, okay, and our drain valve is this orange yellow one here. So you'll find it like that. Just come in and flick it down like that. That's the water pump just there. That means when we start pumping water in, it won't just go straight down and fall into the ground. It will actually find its way through the system. We're also going to come in here and make sure our 12-volt system is turned on just here. So this is our system shutdown button, and there are all of our fuses for our 12-volt side of stuff. It does tell us what all these fuses do over here on this label. Okay, so that's all the 12-volt side of stuff. If we're plugged into mains, this is our 240-volt side here. So if we're plugged into mains, you want to make sure that you've got your heating and hot water button depressed, and also your charger depressed, so the charger can charge the battery when you're plugged in, and also that your heating and hot water will work when you turn it on your panel. Okay. So once that's all done, we then want to start getting water into the van from our Aquaroll outside. We need to fill this boiler up with water, because when you first get to the van, that will just be full of air. Okay, so what you do is come to your main panel up the top here and turn it on using the on button just there, and that will turn this tablet on like so. All right, so what we do is We'll just go through this very quickly. Water pump on that one. Awning lights, that's the light outside. This one here will do your lights inside. We can dim them. We've got two different types of lights, so we can turn them off just by pressing where the 100 is. That will turn them off. And then if we press them again, you'll see they'll come on. And again, we can dim those as well as we wish. And the other one does the other side of things. Okay. And we press the home button to go back. Press the power button. That will tell us what everything's doing in the van in terms of where all the power is coming from. Water don't worry about that because you don't have an onboard tank. The heating button, you can control all the heating from here. I would suggest not, and just use the Truma panel here. It's much easier to use. You've also got settings you can go in for Bluetooth and all that sort of stuff, change the date and time, and also our radio is just there as well. Okay. But what we want to do is come in, turn this on, and then we want to turn on our water pump like that. And then we're going to start to fill the boiler with water. So you turn the tap to hot, and then turn the tap on. You can see I've got a nice steady flow of water here because I've already purged this system. But what you will get is a load of coughing, spluttering and gargling while it sucks water from the aqua roll, fills up your boiler and makes its way to your tap. Alright, so once it stops gurgling and spluttering, it will be just like that. Once that's done, you're happy that the hot side on here is done. Do the same on the cold. Alright, again, you'll get a bit of coughing and spluttering, not quite as much as the hot because you're not filling a boiler up. But once it's a steady flow on both sides, that is primed, okay? You then want to go and do that in your shower and also in your sink as well. Get all the air out of the system. Do it even if you're not planning on using the shower, still get all the air out. You'll find the system will work much better for that, okay? Once that's done, we then want to start heating the water up that's in that boiler and potentially turning the heating on in the van as well. So for that, we're going to come to our Truma panel. Now to turn the Truma panel on, you're just going to hold down the middle section, the middle button here. This is a button and a jog wheel. Okay, so turn that on. And this is our standby screen. Okay, let's see if I can get close enough so you can see. So to wake the panel up, just press the button. Now these are our different sort of selections on here. The first one has a thermometer inside a van. That is our internal temperature, so I'm going to press that. That way I can just turn the wheel and select whatever temperature it is I want in the van, whether it's off in the summer or all the way up to 30 if I was really cold. And I would just press select, so if I want it to be 20, to go OK. Then I'm going to go along one on the jog wheel and then press OK. This is my hot water, so I can either have that off, eco, which will heat it, I think it's to 40 degrees, hot, which will heat it to 50 degrees, and boost, which in essence what it will do is override your heating system and just use all of its power to produce hot water for you. So the first time you come in, you want to get that hot water heated up nice and quickly, or you're having a couple of back-to-back showers, it might be worth coming in and doing that. It will then revert itself back to the hot setting after that. Okay, so just something to think about. So that's our hot water. Then we want to decide what kind of power we're using. Now, this boiler will either run on 240 volt power when we're plugged into mains, or it will run off gas, okay? So when we're talking about gas, that is in our front locker, just out here. So when we're traveling, you want to make sure that this bottle is strapped in and turned off, okay? But if we're going to use the gas at all, we're just going to come in and we're just going to turn the bottle, okay? Open it up, and that's ready to go. This goes into the side of the bottle on an opposite thread. It's just a hand tight wheel that screws in, not the normal way you would do it. It's not lefty loosey righty tighty, it's the other way round. But if you're going to use the gas at all for your boiler, come in and turn that on, but do make sure that it's left strapped in and turned off when you're traveling. Okay, so we're going to come and select our power source. All right, so we're going to go across to this one here. At the minute, I've got it running on electric 2. What that means, it's running on 2 kilowatts of electric power. I can run it on 1 or 2 kilowatts, depending on what site I'm on and what I'm using in the van. So if I'm using 2 kilowatts here, I've got my microwave going, I've got my hairdryer going, I might start tripping out my trip switches here, okay? If that's the case, you're trying to draw too much current, so you might need to come over here, drop it down to 1 kilowatt, that way you can still use other stuff in your van. It's all about balancing it out. If you've got a good power source, you may well get away with 2 kilowatts and still doing everything in the van. So it really depends on your site. Okay, so then if I was while camping, I didn't have access to mains power, I could select just gas. So press OK. And that will then light my boiler purely on gas. Again, making sure I've got enough gas in my bottle and I've turned my bottle on. All right. And that is purely running on the gas. Now if I really want to, I can run it with a mixture of the two, so mix 1 and mix 2. So that's 2 kilowatts of power and gas, or 1 kilowatt of power and gas. I suppose if it was really cold outside, I wanted to heat everything up really quickly, I might put it on that and then come and switch it purely over to the electric once it was warmed up, because there's no point in sort of wasting your gas and your electric, but it would heat the van up much quicker that way. All right, so I'm going to go back to electric 2 because I know that works fine. Then my fan speed, because it's a blown air system, we can select whether we've got a high fan speed or a low fan speed. They call it eco, but in essence that's what it means. Obviously the higher the fan speed, the slightly noisier it is, but so you might want to play around with that at night, but it's not that noisy at all really, to be honest with you, especially if you're sleeping in the back bedroom. There are other settings we can go into. We can set timers, we can set priorities and all that. I'm not going to go into that now. We purely want to know the temperature in our van. Our hot water, is it on, off, or is it on boost? What power are we using? And our fan speed. So it really is as simple as that. Okay. Okay, so that's the basics from that side of stuff. So we've now got water in our boiler, our heating's on, our hot water's heating up, and we've got power going everywhere. So that's good. We'll just quickly open some cupboards and have a look and see what we got in them. This here's our TV aerial, right? It's a directional TV aerial in the downwards position at the minute. If you want to use the TV aerial, once you get to site, undo the locking nut, that will just push up in the air, okay? But not remembering, you do need to make sure you bring it back down again when you're traveling, okay? Once that is, once the signal comes through that, it goes through to our Vision Plus booster box situated just up here. On-off switch for that is just on the top if you need to turn it on, and our gain is just that little dial there, but to be fair, just leave it on maximum and it will do the job anyway. So that's just boosting the signal for you. That then comes down, we've got a TV point here, a 12 volt socket and a 240 volt socket. Remembering of course the 240 volt socket will only work when we are plugged into mains, otherwise we're just running on 12 volt only. Going into here, you can see we've got this little module here. Right, what this is to do with our radio and whatnot. So it's you look at a little aux in there, so if you want to plug your phone in and play music through the van, you can do whilst selecting aux on the radio side of things over here. So you would go to radio and then mode, and you just toggle through to aux basically. There we go, to aux. All right, and then you can play music through that way. You can see your speakers in the roof there. We've got light switches for our downlighters. Now in terms of windows, they all open and close, I'm going to say, in the same way, yes. So we'll just do a demo on this one. They're what we call click-clack windows. So we open them up, 1, 2, 3 and 4. And then as we open the window, do it nice and slowly, you're going to be listening for a click. And then basically you're just going to drop the window back onto that click when you hear it, if that makes sense. So there we go, 1 click, 2 clicks, and then you can go 1 more as well. And then to release, we just up and back down again. All right, and then we lock the window back into place. You can lock it slightly open on a breather setting if you wish to. If it was a really hot day, you want to keep the airflow around the van, you can do. But if you're leaving it for any period of time, I would recommend locking it properly. All right. Every window that opens will have a fly screen, blind as well. All right. So if it doesn't open, it will just have a blind and won't have a fly screen such as this window here. Okay. Quickly go around the kitchen. We've got 2 240 volt sockets there. Light switches are here. Microwave sat here. The only thing I'll say about the microwave, 2 things actually. It will only run on mains power when we're plugged in, 240 volt. And you must remove the microwave plate when you are travelling. You will find that in your book pack when you pick the van up in the front drawer, but make sure that you don't travel with it in there. It ends up smashed on the floor or denting a unit, or it's just not worth it. Okay, 3 gas burner hob. All right, again making sure that you keep the glass down when travelling. All right, otherwise again these end up slipping out because it does bounce around a lot in here when you're towing, I'm sure you can imagine. Say 3 gas burner works just like a normal cooker would do, a normal gas one. So just hold it down, light it, let go, then we can change the ferociousness of the flame. Again, I would just run this for a second or a couple of seconds or a minute before when you first turn your gas on, just to get all that air out of the system. Gas oven, bear in mind that is a caravan oven, all right, not a domestic oven. All right, so if it may take longer to cook something in there than it says on the packet, because it says not domestic oven, so just keep that in mind as well. We have our draining board in there, and we also have our gas isolation switches just located down there as well. So if you need to isolate something gas wise, that's where you come to do it. You shouldn't really need to worry too much about that, but just so you're aware of what it is. We'll just say about the water, if you've got this all the way on hot, you've got kids or anything in the van, that water does get very, very hot indeed. To say 60 degrees is hot water, alright, so just bear that in mind. Of course you can mix it with cold, but if it's all the way over to the hot, just bear that in mind. Alright, fridge. We've got a Dometic 3-way fridge here, so that means it will run on mains electric like we are at the minute. It will run on gas if we are in the middle of a field somewhere, don't have a mains electric, and it will also run on a battery setting, which means it will run off the alternator of your car. So the 12 volt from your car, that doesn't mean it will run off the Leisure battery. So basically for when you're towing. This has a, someone's put a little thing over the top there, so you can just block that off, because it just stops being able to see the lights. And also if you brush past these as well, they're quite sensitive, these buttons, so that's there to protect that. Turning the fridge on and off is this button here. Just hold it down until you get some lights and opposite to turn it off. We also have our temperature here, which we can set by pressing the button there. I've got it set on auto, as you can see at the minute, which is probably the best thing to leave it on really, because it will select its preferred power source. It knows we're plugged into mains, so that's why it's using the mains, as you can see. You can change it manually, so if I wanted to light it on gas I could do, so I'll turn it over and light it on gas, or I could turn it over and put it on the battery setting from my car. That would alarm at me though, because I'm obviously not plugged into a tow vehicle. But your best bet, leave it on auto, let it do its thing, and so then you can just leave this over the top. And then you can't see any of the lights at night or anything like that, and just protects you from knocking it. Fridge has been on, nice and cold. Freezer section at the top, obviously all the other sections down the bottom. Nothing really to talk about there. Smoke alarm and carbon monoxide alarms are there. Going into the bathroom, separate showers in here. Your light switch for the bathroom is hidden round here. There we go. So this is obviously your shower door. Again, when you're travelling, make sure it's locked in place so it's not bouncing around the place all the time when you're travelling, otherwise you'll end up getting damaged. From a toilet point of view, which is the only other thing we really need to talk about in here, so your flush tank's in the top here, your cassette is in the bottom down here. Okay, so when we use the toilet, we use it the normal way. This does spin around a bit depending on how long your legs are. Alright, so we use the toilet the normal way. We flush the toilet by pressing the flush button there. Okay, that will then spurt some coloured liquid, depending on which chemical you've used, into there. We then open the gate at the bottom into the cassette by using this over here. Push it to one side. Okay, that opens the gate, everything drops down into the cassette. We then pull that all the way back over. That then creates the seal back in there, so you do want to make sure you're putting that all the way across. Again, if it's not all the way across, you won't actually be able to remove the cassette anyway, so if you're struggling to get it out, that's why you want to come back in here, because that's not shut properly. I see that quite a bit. When your cassette's full, you'll get a little indicator light up there, so don't ignore that, otherwise you'll end up with a mess in your the cassette sort of place, so don't do that. Then we go into our bedroom. So fixed bed there, obviously on gas struts. Underneath you'll see your spare wheel, also your carpets. Not really much to talk about in here. We have a TV bracket and a TV point just there as well as our sliding doors. Now again, when we talk about when we're travelling, we want to make sure that we're keeping these all locked into place. So you do have a little jobby there. Alright, so just make sure they're locked for when we're travelling. I'll do that now, just make sure they're both done. That way they won't come off the rails when you are travelling. Right, that's the basics of it. What we'll do is we'll say we've been on holiday, we've had a nice time, so let's now break the van down, ready to hit the road again. So we'll just go around and do everything that we need to do. First things first is I'm going to turn off my fridge because I don't need that anymore. You may well leave it on because you might be travelling with it on, but don't forget when you get home to turn that off. Even if you've turned off the 12 volt from your main panel, it will still be on. There we go. Just going to put that cover back over the top as well. There we go. I'm then going to come and turn off my trimmer panel. I want to turn this off separately as well before I turn off my 12 volt. It just, otherwise, if it loses 12 volt connection from the panel, it can cause an error code. So if you turn that off first, that just avoids that. I'm then going to turn off this panel here by holding the button down. There we go. Just turned off all my lights, all that's turned off. I'm going to remove my microwave plate. I'm going to make sure this is all selected down here. I am then going to come and start draining my system down, and the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to open this up. There we go. I'm then going to go and open all of my taps in between hot and cold. We want to make sure we're leaving it open. We're allowing air through the system then, okay? So if we get freezing weather and we've got water in the system, water expands when it freezes, and the amount of time we see cracked taps, cracked pipes, all sorts of stuff, the next time you come to plumb up your van, you'll have problems. So we want to leave everything empty, boiler empty through that drain valve, all the taps open, in between hot and cold, and then you are going to avoid that problem. Okay, all done, shower and everything. There we go. Fine. Then make sure everything's sort of secured down in the van and ready for the road. We're then going to go outside and start shutting everything down. I'm going to turn my gas bottle off, make sure it's strapped in. I'm actually going to remove this one because it's my test bottle. Again, opposite threads you'd expect, but just a hand tight wheel, only for a spanner. Okay, you can see our boiler draining down here, look, underneath. That's all good. We're then going to remove our pickup for our water pump. There we go. Take that out of there, give it a shake off. Put that in the front locker. Then you're going to clear away your Aquaroll, your Waste Master, empty those, stow those away in the van. Some people put them in the shower just for ease and wrap them up in a towel or something. You'll come up with your own way, I'm sure. My colleague's just given me the nod to say he's unplugged at the mains lead, so I can unplug it from here. Basically, I don't want to be walking around with a live cable, so I always plug it from the post first when I'm taking it out, and the other way around when I'm putting it on. There we go. And then I'm going to lift my legs up. I'm going to hitch up to my car. I'm going to get ready to go. So hopefully that makes sense and's helped. Again, you'll have your instruction manuals in your front drawers anyway, and of course we're on the end of the phone if you need it. But enjoy your new van, and thanks for watching.